everyone, and welcome back to some more Sporting Memories quiz. This weekend's theme that we looked at last night is sporting venues. And we've done the 15 last night, so I'll recap as I go through it, and then I'll give you the answer and a little bit of background where we can as well. So, sporting venues, number 1 out of 15 is the Dream Mile is an annual race held at which famous stadium? So the answer is to this one, the Bislett Stadium. Did you get that one? The Bislett Stadium. If you're really good, you'll know that is that's right, in Oslo, Norway. The Bislett Stadium, which was obviously part of the Bislett Games. Huge amount of records, didn't it, tumble at Bislett? I mean, growing up, for me personally, in the late 70s and 80s, we watched one middle distance runner after the other break the Dream Mile record, didn't we? We had Sebastian Cohen 79, Steve Ovett was that 80, I think that was 1 year later, and then of course Steve Cram in 1985. On top of that, a whole host of field events and other track events, records broken. So it seemed to be an ideal place. But yeah, a lot of links there with British athletics, middle distance. So the Bislett Stadium is the answer for the Dream Mile. And of course the Dream Miles, well, the mile isn't run that much now, is it? It's mainly the 1500 metres, of course, and the mile is not done that often apart from these kind of events on the Diamond League circuit. So that's number 1. Number 2 is this. In what city is the last stage of the Grand Tour of Italy held, known as the Gyro d'Italia? So pro cycling, where do they tend to finish? Well, they tend to finish, no, it's not in Rome. I know that's the one people think about. They actually finish in Milano, or Milan. Why? I think there's some links there to the leader's jersey, the Maglia Rosa, which is sort of that pink colour. I think the original thing they were trying to advertise was printed on that pink paper, which was used a lot in those days. And if I'm right, was the publishing house in Milan? It was something like that. So of course the Grand Tour of Italy started in 1909, not quite as old as the Tour de France, but still a very old Grand Tour. So number 2, Milan, pat on the back. If you got that one right, well done. Number 3 was tennis. What was the venue for the famous tennis tournament starting way back in 1877? So I did say don't overthink it, because it is the one that you're probably thinking about. Yeah, it's Wimbledon. That's right. Wimbledon, it began on July the 9th, 1877. And I believe the winner received something like 12 guineas. Bit different to what they receive now. But I guess it's all relative, isn't it? Not a huge amount of spectators that day, but obviously it went on to become probably the main Grand Slam event of the year, didn't it? So Wimbledon is your answer for number 3. Number 4, looking at another famous stadium. In what decade did the first, or the old Wembley as I call it, first open? So no, it wasn't the 40s. It wasn't the 30s either. You've got to go back as far as the 1920s. So it was open ready for the FA Cup final between Bolton and West Ham back in 1923. And the clue, do you remember that famous picture? There's crowds all over the pitch and there's one police officer on a white horse. They call it the White Horse Final. Do you remember that picture? Well, that was taken at the 1923 FA Cup final when Wembley had just been recently opened. So pat on the back if you've got 1920s. Well done. And number 5, back to some cycling. Which famous French city hosted the prologue, which is like a short time trial, of the centenary, which is the 2003 Tour de France? So this again was the obvious one. It wasn't Marseille, Bordeaux or Lyon. It was Paris. It was indeed Paris. They started off from underneath the Eiffel Tower. They did a little route round the Seine. I think it was something like 6-7 kilometres, something like that. And a certain David Miller from Britain just missed out, didn't he? Because his chain came off in the last kilometre or two of the race, and he lost it by tiny margin to Australia's Bradley McGee. So that's number 5. Number 6, back to football. Which football club who now play at KC Stadium played for 56 seasons at Boothbury Park? And the answer to this one is no, it's not Leicester. A lot of people say Leicester City. It was Hull City. Hull, yeah, remember they were in the Premier League some seasons ago. So they left Boothbury in 2002 to go to their new home at the KC. Many clubs obviously have left, including Leicester and many others. So they played at Boothbury since 1946. And I know my granddad used to be a regular during the 1950s when my dad was only young, and they used to go to Hull, go over on the ferry. Do you remember the ferry? I think, well, they would have gone over on the ferry from New Holland over to Hull, and then there was a train service that doesn't run now that actually went from the main part of Hull that took people out to Boothbury. And that's how they did it in those days. It was a specially designed train just to get the supporters to the ground. So when you think about it, that was a bit of a clap for him. He had to go from where he lived to New Holland on the train. He lived in East Alton. Then he got the ferry to Hull. Then he got the train probably to the centre of Hull. Then they had to get the train out to Boothbury. So they were pretty committed. Now, number 7. The Daytona 500 is a 500-mile long motor race held annually at Daytona International Speedway, but in what US state? It wasn't Arizona. It's not Illinois, which is the other one people say. It's Florida. Yeah, Florida is where it's held. Not quite as famous as the Indy 500. Probably it is pretty much so in America, though. So Florida, number 7, if you got that, very well done. Number 8. The Bird's Nest Stadium was an Olympic venue at what games? So when I said the clue is bird's nest soup. Have you ever tried that? I haven't tried it myself. It's quite a delicacy though, isn't it, in the Far East? So if you go to anywhere like Singapore, Malaysia, China, they'll pay big money to eat bird's nest soup. So China, do you remember the Beijing Olympics? 2008, 4 years before London 2012. So it's in Beijing, the Bird's Nest Stadium. Not that it's got anything to do with bird's nest soup, but I thought that was a nice clue. And just to add one thing to that, anybody knows what the birds' nests are made out of that they put in the soup? Any ideas? It's made from their saliva. Yummy. So the bird forms this thick, gooey saliva that solidifies and makes quite a strong nest. It's like a sort of a swift. And then they go into these dark caves, don't they, and just pull them off the wall. So, Beijing, number 8. Number 9. Which 2 teams were due to kick off in the 85 European Cup final when that wall tragically collapsed at Heysel? The 2 clubs, well, one of them was obviously Liverpool. Most people get that. But who were the other ones? It was an Italian side. Juventus, that's right. So, before kick-off, a lot of people blame the Liverpool fans that they rushed at the Juventus fans who then had to jump over to try and get out of the way. It put pressure on this particular wall. The wall collapsed. It tragically killed, I think it was 39 people. And it does sound strange, doesn't it, that the match still went ahead, but it did so because they felt if they abandoned the match, there would have been absolute mayhem in terms of rioting. So they thought, let's go ahead with the match. It was goalless in the first half, and then a certain Michel Platini, do you remember him? Great French player. Scored a penalty that was given away by the Liverpool player Gary Gillespie, which was debated because on further evidence it was clear he was not fouled or brought down in the box. But that's history, isn't it? And then after that, of course, a lot of English clubs, well, all English clubs, received a 5-year ban from European football competition, which was a long time. So, well done if you got Juventus versus Liverpool. And even better if you found out it was a 1-0 win to Juventus. Number 10. Motor racing. At which Grand Prix circuit was Ayrton Senna the most successful in his career? Okay, so you could have gone for things, you probably thought of things like Spa in Belgium or Hockenheim in Germany or even Silverstone. It wasn't any of those. It was, of course, the Monaco circuit, Monte Carlo, where he won an amazing 6 Grand Prix. And 5 of them, I think, was even more amazing. He won them consecutively. So from 1989 to 1993, Senna won all of the Monaco Grand Prix, which is pretty impressive because to win at Monaco, you pretty much got to get the pole, haven't you? Or have a bit of luck that somebody has engine failure, etc. Because to pass, pretty tough. So he, of course, passed away in 1994, tragically, at the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, when he crashed into that wall. So Monaco was number 10. Number 11. Which ground did Ian Botham score his maiden first-class century in county cricket? So we know he played for Somerset, but who was he playing that day? A lot of people say Headingley. It wasn't at Headingley. It was at, well, it was against Nottinghamshire. So that was Trent Bridge. This was August 1976. He scored 167 not out. Somerset reached 302 for 4 in only 65 overs and won by 6 wickets. So it was the start of great things, wasn't it, for Ian Botham? So Trent Bridge, number 11. Number 12, this is an interesting one. Which Football League club plays at the oldest stadium in the Football League? And probably, I'm not sure, but maybe in the world. So people think of various ones on this one. I've had people say Ipswich Town, Mansfield, Notts County. It isn't any of those, but it is Bramall Lane, Sheffield United. It's Sheffield United. They opened their doors in 1862, so it's now the oldest stadium. I don't think Sheffield United were playing there from the outset. I think it was Sheffield FC, which are a different club. But United came there a number of years later, but they hold the record for playing at the oldest stadium. The oldest ground would have been Mansfield Town. So that's different. So there are different records. But Sheffield United, well done. You got it right. 1862 is the ground. Number 13. Which of the following Olympic cities have only hosted the Games once? So I gave you 3 choices, didn't I? Los Angeles, Paris, Rome. Which one could that be? So let's go through them. Los Angeles, hosted in 84. Do you remember Carl Lewis with his 4 golds, didn't he? And it also had it in 1932, way before my time, of course. So it's obviously not Los Angeles. So let's move to Paris. Paris held it in 1924. Do you remember the Chariots of Fire Olympics? Harold Abrahams, Eric Liddell. But it also held it way back in 1900. So that's had it twice. So the answer to number 13 is it's Rome. It's only held it once back in 1960. A few years ago now, of course. Before my time as well. So your answer, Rome, 1960. Well done if you got that one, because most people say Paris or Los Angeles to that one. Number 14, the University Boat Race starts downstream of which bridge? So if you think about the way the race runs, it starts just downstream from Putney Bridge. Putney. So Putney Bridge is your answer. Then it goes past Craven Cottage, the home of Fulham. I think the next one then is your Hammersmith, Barnes, the finish line, and I think just beyond the finish line there's the Chiswick Bridge as well. So well done if you got Putney. That's we all watched it, haven't we, for years, but you don't always remember what order the bridges are in. So well done on that one. And finally, which stadium or which city was the venue for England's Rugby World Cup win in 2003. Now, a lot of people remember this because they say they remember getting up early in the morning to watch it. So that's a clue. It's probably in the Southern Hemisphere. If it's in the Southern Hemisphere, it's probably going to be either New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. And it is, of course, Sydney, Australia. And if you're really good, you'll know that was the ANZ Stadium, otherwise known, I think now, as just the Sydney Stadium, or the Stadium Australia. So well done if you got that one. So add up your results, see what you got. If you've got a good score, let me know, I'd be interested. Or if there's any comments you've got on anything I've talked about, let me know, that'd be great. Or if you've got any little stories you want to add, maybe you've been to one of these events and you've got a little story, that would be great as well. And just finally to add that if you go to the Sporting Memories Foundation website and find the heading replay, you can record there any sporting memories, videos, anything you want on there. So that's excellent. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed it. And till next time, bye bye for now.